style, sell with Sue. It's your move.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, my friends, to another episode of No Place Like Home. Hey, today it's on the house, as it always is. And I hope you get some benefit from it. So there's lots of value. Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit from behind the curtain of the real estate industry, what's going on the inside, and what happens when people go through the real estate licensing course and become your realtor. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what most people don't know. I first took the course, the licensing course, from the Real Estate Council in 2006, I think 2006, maybe 2007. I'd already been working in a real estate office for a couple of years, and I started in 2004 and there was this huge boom. I mean, we would put a property on the market, and as soon as it was active, you had multiple offers coming in. People were writing without conditions. It was crazy and a very busy time for me to learn the business. So after learning the business for a couple of years, I did go and take the licensing course. When I took it, I understood why there were so many licensed real estate agents who didn't really know how to run their business and who weren't succeeding maybe as they had hoped to. So at that time, I thought, someone needs to help teach the realtors all these things I've been learning for the last 2 years so that they can go out and get clients and run a proper business and have some systems and processes. And so at that time, I did turn my attention to within the industry, and I have helped many, many agents over the last 20 years just level up their business, teach them what they didn't know from the course, and really enjoyed that. I have probably spoken at almost every brokerage in Calgary at one point or another, just sharing my insights and what I have discovered over the years that can help other agents. Of course, now I have my license, so my teaching and my sharing is more to you, the consumer, the home buyer and seller. But I do think it's interesting for you to realize just how poor the course is in really equipping a realtor to know everything they need to know to help you. And I had the opportunity in 2023 to circle back and help improve that licensing course with a company called Rello. I was the vice president of real estate and mortgages. And I went into the back end of the program and implemented what I thought would help as much as I could. But one thing I want to share is that just like many licensing programs, realtors do not get everything they need to know to actually work the business and help clients. And it's like this in many industries. I know nurses who have gone into nursing and, only learned a small amount and they have to learn the rest of it as they go. Mortgage brokers. My grandson's turning 14. He gets to go and write his learner's exam. But I'm telling you, when you pass your driver's license, that does not mean you are a great driver right off the bat. You have a lot of things to learn, and there's a lot of places to go and get that learning. In 2023, so I helped Rello, and I put some business processes in there, tried to make it more user-friendly in the program. But of course, the council does hold the exam process. So there's only so much. You can't make it a whole year course and try to teach real estate agents everything that they need to know, just like when you're driving a car. And those people who are interested, they need to go and find the training that will help them become successful or as successful as they want to be in the industry. So I did, as I was going through the licensing program again, because of course I'm licensed now, I made a YouTube playlist called How to Become a Realtor. And I just explained all the steps I was going through in the program and tried to make it easier for other realtors to understand what they're going through and what they can expect. And so I always have had a heart to help other realtors just, level up and understand the business to the best of their ability. And I can share what I've learned along the way. And when I did get my license, even though I have been in the industry for many, many years, I took my own education seriously too. For example, I went to the Calgary Real Estate Board. They had a lawyer teaching about contracts. Now, I have filled out a million contracts. However, they do change every once in a while. And it's really good to hear from an expert like a lawyer what I want to concentrate on when I'm helping you, the client, buy or sell a house. And actually, I just had Jeff Kahane on my last podcast. So if you haven't heard my last podcast episode, you might want to tune in. He has some really good things to share for home buyers and sellers. Also, someone else you might be interested in listening to is a great home inspector who has just exploded on TikTok. And just a nice East Coast man who used to build homes, and now he's a home inspector here in Calgary. That's Marty from Nook and Cranny Home Inspections. And he, on his TikTok platform, really explains the hidden problems that he finds sometimes in new builds and resale homes, and issues like sometimes missing drywall. He just posted the other day in a garage where they had a bedroom above the garage and there was a whole strip of missing drywall. Now, me, a real estate agent going in there, I might not realize why that's a problem. But the professional home inspector was quick to point that out. And also, he recently pointed out a really good tip about checking the hoses on your washer and drying machines. Well, I guess mostly that'd be your washing machine, because they crack, they explode, they come apart after a while. And he was showing that on this plumbing, the original plumbing that came with the washer, I think it said replace this after 4 years. I have to admit, I have never looked at my washing hose and thought, does this need to be replaced? So it's nice to go to the experts and understand you should go to the experts when you need expert advice. And yes, when you first get your real estate license, you need to know new agents are not taught everything that they need to know. It takes time. There's almost nothing about the real estate contract, which is what we deal with and write in every single day. There's really not much about how a house is built, different styles of houses. There's not really anything about negotiating. And so sometimes we still see these kind of bully offers where people come in and try and bully you to take their offer, and they have a really short timeline on it. So if you don't accept it, it's gone forever. They so they don't really teach about negotiation or about, as I said, business planning. And there's a whole system, behind when you buy or sell your house. It's all exciting while you're putting in your offer and it gets accepted. But as the real estate agent, we have then, hours behind the scenes where we are submitting contracts to lawyers and our brokerage and making sure we have everything we need, making sure you've signed everything at the right spot. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that really most agents need to pick up as they're going, as they're learning. Some brokerages do have training programs for new realtors. There's a lot of variety of the education out there, but I don't think the general population is conscious or thinking about, I wonder what training my realtor got. Well, I can tell you because I've taken it in the early 2000s and I took it again in the late 2024s or whatever, and I went in and helped write it. So I'm not trying to put the course down. It is what it is, like many other licensing programs. But just so that you're aware, there's a little bit of training and experience that most real estate agents and most professionals go through so that they can reach a level of experience when they're helping you to walk through and choose a house or to get the most money as you're selling your house. So this last week, I have a house listed and it's in a newer neighborhood and we haven't been getting as much action on it as I would like to see. And we're having a bit of a shift right now in our market. Of course, the market always shifts, but right now it's slowing down a little bit, becoming a bit more balanced for buyers, and they're having more time. And when I did the statistics, I went in and I discovered there's 23 comparable active listings. in this neighborhood that my sellers have their house listed. Now, when I pull the statistics, I can see that 9 had sold in the previous 30 days. And so I can do my calculations and see we've got about 2.5 months of supply. And so it might take that long to get their house sold. And so we can respond with that information. And knowing the absorption rate, actually, the fellow who was a great teacher of the absorption rate was a wonderful realtor named Kevin Clark, who used to also be a president of the Calgary Real Estate Board. Actually, he just passed away not too long ago. So let me rabbit trail there. First, I just want to share how experts within our industry do sometimes share their knowledge. And gosh, Kevin just used to be so passionate about his Excel spreadsheets and how to pull statistics and what the stories behind those statistics mean. And when houses get, to a certain age, there's sometimes a gentrification in a neighborhood. And so if you're looking to buy in there, what you might expect in that neighborhood, just so much. So sometimes the more senior agents and the experts in the industry will share back with the new people, although even if you're not new, you might find it very interesting. And so I went to Kevin's funeral. I had much respect for him. I had coached him over the years. Yes, he was very good with his statistics, but he didn't love the social media as that came about. And of course, you're always trying to stay up with marketing. And you know what I found very interesting at his funeral, and because I'm always looking for life lessons, and maybe you are too, is that he had had a career, I think, over 40 years as a realtor and was certainly very respected and had many, many clients after all that time. He also had a lot of collaboration with other realtors. So in his industry, he was very well respected and liked. But when his family went up to share the stories, they weren't all the stories about all the deals he had done or the houses he had sold. It was very interesting that the heartfelt, the real reason for living was the love and the bonds between his wife, his children, his grandchildren, and colleagues too, who he was in the habit of regularly calling people and just checking up on them. And I had this experience myself, but I did feel like he did it just for me. When I did get my real estate license and transition into becoming a realtor and selling houses, I took Kevin out for coffee and just had a chat with him and asked him for any advice that he might have. And of course, he just shared his whole systems with me and everything. Well, maybe 4 or 5 months later, I was having a nice walk in along the river, and I get this phone call, and it's Kevin Clark. And he says, "Hey, Sue, I was just thinking about you, and I thought I'd pick up the phone and check in. How are things going?" And I was really encouraged by that. If you're an entrepreneur as well, it can be a very lonely career. And to have somebody, lots of times we think of others, think, oh, we should call them, oh, we should go for coffee. And then it becomes too much of a big deal and we don't do anything. And that was a really good lesson I took away from his funeral, that when you are thinking of someone, it doesn't take much just to pick up the phone and check in and say, "Hi, I'm thinking about you." And so there were lots of people who really appreciated that. There were also a good amount of stories from his youth. Do you know you never know what people are going to remember about you and you as a child growing up, you as a sibling. And so I thought that was very interesting. All the different stories about his personality, how it shone through, and his character. And even there was one story about some bad blood that had been exchanged in the family with a certain son-in-law. And I actually did ask if I could ever share this story because I thought it was so good and have permission to do so. Kevin and his son-in-law they had a funny thing happen, but it wasn't funny to Kevin. And so there was some bad blood between them. And one day, Kevin came over to the son-in-law in his daughter's house and knocked on the door with a hatchet in his hand. And so the son-in-law was a little bit worried. You can imagine why. And this a pillar in his church, experienced realtor, just showed such humility when he explained to his son-in-law that there was a rift between them and he didn't want it to be there, and that he'd been holding some unforgiveness against him, and he was coming over to offer up the hatchet and to ask if they could bury the hatchet together. I'm almost moved to tears right now. It was emotional then, it's emotional now, just as I'm thinking of the courage and the bravery that it takes somebody to say, I've had a problem with this. This happened and it hurt my feelings. But I don't want it to be like that between us. And so would you please forgive me? And I want you to know I forgive you. And wow, I'll tell you, it impacted everyone who was listening at that funeral that day. And there was a lot of people there. So I hope you'll take that to heart too. If you have any hard feelings or unforgiveness to anyone, that there's always time, and you might change someone's life by offering that. His grandchildren also shared some fun memories of their papa. And one that I really enjoyed listening to was a fun memory of them driving in the car with him. And, I will say my impression of Kevin always was he was very proper and, English. And so for him this day, I guess he had the music up loud and he was driving and singing along, and it was a little out of character for him. But it sounded like he was just enjoying his time with his grandchildren. And he was telling them, listen to this song. It's so good. And it was a song from The Greatest Showman. Of course, there's lots of good songs in there. And he just blasted it and was singing it so loud, and everyone was laughing. And they couldn't believe Grandpa had the music up so loud. Wow. But it made a memory. It impacted them. And that's what they chose to share as one of their most memorable times with their grandfather. And, as I have shared before, but I will share again, music is scientifically proven to be one of those um, avenues that help us to keep memories, to create memories, and to remember things from the past, because the music, the tune, it bypasses our executive center. It goes right to the back where our emotions are, and it links. And not only can it help us remember things from the past, it can also help us lay down tracks for the future. So if you ever want to help someone have a memory, being conscious and strategic about your music could create a very nice memory for someone else if you're trying to do that. I know when my clients, so I mean, I have been a musician, an amateur, and well, I've gotten paid once in a while over the years, over my life. And so I do appreciate all kinds of music. And so when I have new buyers, if you're looking for a house, usually, if I have time, before we go see the first batch of homes, I will email you a link to a special Spotify playlist that I have curated and carefully curated with songs about, I've got this feeling, my house, it's a brick house, it's your move. So I just have a very thoughtful, curated playlist of songs that people might not listen to every day. And I say, go ahead and put the playlist on while we're looking for houses, in the hopes that maybe as we're looking, 5 houses, 10, 20, 30, if they are game and up for the fun of it, maybe they'll put on that playlist. And in the future, when they hear those songs, then again, maybe it will remind them of the fun, excitement, the adventure that they had while we were house hunting. Or maybe it will inspire them to make their own playlist if they don't like those songs. And then going forward, for all the years after, they remember when they were house hunting, maybe when they found the house and the good feelings, that it brought. I would encourage you to think of some music that you could maybe use in a way to inspire yourself, to help other people, to create some memories, something that you could try at home. And I'm going to do this, as I was saying, it's my grandson's birthday coming up. He's turning 14. And I just thought it was interesting at the funeral how everyone had different stories about this person that they knew. I'm going to encourage everyone, share a memory that you have about the birthday boy. And so if you've got birthdays coming up, that would be a really fun thing to do. Everyone would enjoy it. Why do we have to wait till a funeral to hear everyone's memories about someone in the family? And here's another idea. Technology is so great. Even me, I'm zooming these podcasts. I have the videos of them. Of course, you can see video on Spotify now. Did you know that? I assume a lot of people listen while they're driving, but with the technology, record on your phone, on Zoom, on meetings, whatever you're comfortable with. Why not record a little message to somebody that you love? Because you don't know how much time you have here. And we hear stories on the news all the time about accidents that happen. And they're called accidents because you're not planning for these things to happen. And so, I think we have to admit that no one knows when they're going to go or when they're going to be in an accident or, whatever. But we do have the ability to record a message right now to your children, your family. What would you want to say? What would you want people to hear from you? We have the ability. I would challenge you to record something and just have it. And you know what? If you don't have to use it soon, you could even send it out to your family and just let them know what you did. You probably really touch their hearts. So those are my thought drops for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you'll share this podcast with your friends and family. And if you or someone you know is looking to make a move and find a home, reach out to me. Say hello and I'll take it from there. Remember, it's your move and I'm here to advocate for you. I'm thankful that you listened in today and I hope you'll join me tomorrow for another episode of No Place Like Home. Thank you. Bye for now.